In this video I'll show how to take this stone, and we're going to fancy it up just a little bit by adding some vanishing chamfers to the edges and then maybe throw in some more shading as well. I've also noticed that this design has a couple little things here that need to be touched up. So first I'll just zoom in and take my virtual segment delete and swipe across and delete those. Can't see it anymore because it's not fillable anymore since there's a hole there. So I'll hold down Shift, draw a box around that, and that'll close that line back in. And then there's a couple other areas here. We'll do the same thing. So I'll just virtual segment delete that, hold down Shift to close it. This one is not overlapping, and so what I'll do is I'll take this node, Shift drag it, or Control drag it down so that it's going in a straight line, and then I'll virtual segment delete, hold down Shift again, and that will close that in. So now that we've got it all closed up, those are just little tiny things, but they can mess with what we're doing, so fix that really quick. Now that we have our design all fixed up, we'll go ahead and start making our vanishing chamfers. So it's pretty simple to do this. What we're going to do is use the shape tool, click on the die so that it's selected, and then we'll just click on that node up there, and holding down Shift we'll click on this node down there. What it does is it selects all of the nodes in between our two clicks, and we can hit Control C to copy, and then we'll hit Control V to paste. And once that's done, and I'll go to wireframe so that we'll be able to see this a little bit better, we can click on the corner node and just start dragging it. I'm holding down Control so that as it drags in a 45-degree angle. It actually constrains to 15 degrees, so it'll snap every 15 degrees. But as long as I'm going in this general direction, it's going to continue along that 45-degree angle. So I'll bring it in about as far as I want it to come, and then we'll just simply take the freehand tool, make sure we snap to this node, and then snap to that node. That way we'll create a line from there. Now in order to get our areas filled, what we'll do is we'll use the Smart Fill. So we'll come down here and grab Smart Fill, and then just click once in here and once in there. And then I'll hit V to go back out of wireframe. What that does is it gives us a piece here, and I'm going to fill that in with white, and then I'll click on this other one and I'll fill that in with white as well. I know that we have another piece under here because that's what we had created by copying and pasting that corner, and so I'm just going to hold down Alt, and while holding down Alt I'll click again so that it selects that other piece, and I'll just hit delete because I don't need it, and then I'll just swipe in this corner and hit delete because I don't need that line anymore. All we really needed was these two objects there. And then I can take both of those and just hit M to mirror it to the other side. And as you can see, the design is not actually the same on both sides. So that's okay. I'll make this a little bit bigger. So then I can take Smart Fill, I guess, and fill in this section, and I'll fill that in with black so that we can see it. But I'll take that and Shift select the die, and then I'll just hit Trim, and that will then cut that section away from the die. That way we've got this piece matching exactly with the other one. So that's good. That way both of those match on either side. However, this I want to take these two and turn them black instead. So we've got white over here and black over here. That way our shadow's coming from the side. Now if we want to go ahead and fill this in with the color, let's just say Bahama Blue. Then what we can do is take this and just apply a transparency to it. As soon as we click on transparency, this little part will pop up and we can just slide it over. And as we slide it, it'll be lighter or darker. Same thing with this, we can just click on it with our transparency tool, click on it, and then drag our slider down here. So depending on how we want this to look, we can just slide it darker or lighter. So if I want my light to be coming from this side, then I would make these edges darker something like that. And then last, because we've got a polished margin and a polished stone, they kind of run into each other there. And so what I like to do is create a section here to show some shading as well. And because we've got this angling a little bit, I made a line that way. Usually I just draw a rectangle, but I'll make a line and then I will smart fill again. And I will delete that line, and then my smart filled object I want to make black. I'm going to click and drag. If I hold down Control while I do that, then it stays in a straight line. You can see the more I come up, the darker that ends up getting. And if I pull this up, then you'll see that hard line. I don't want to show the hard line, so I want to bring that down to at least there at the top. But that gives us a little bit better look there. Also with the rock pitching, I'll usually draw in a little bit of rock pitching here for the edges. I just think it looks a little bit better. So we'll do that, fill it in with 20%, then you can hit M to mirror that to the other side. And then I also usually take off the outline, so I right click on that. And for the pitching, this is actually set right now at 8 inches, but since we've got the margin, I'll just drop that down. That way our pitching will look a little bit different as well. Then we can refill it, and that'll give us a nice design there with chamfers. You can fill it with any color now that we've got our transparencies. It doesn't matter what color we use, it'll look pretty decent. Unless we go super dark like black, then you're not really going to see it here on the edges. So instead of being white or black for those, maybe we would switch that back to being white instead of black. And then the same thing here, since we can't really see that shadow, we might turn that to a lighter gray or something like that. Just depends on the color that we're using. On this part, as long as you don't go too light gray, you should be okay, though it's typically best to either do a white or a black for your shadow, and that's because if you get here into these mid-tones of grays, then a lot of times, so for example, if I come up to 50% gray and then I fill it in with the granite color, it will actually change that shading to a granite color. So if I zoom in, you'll see what that looks like. We don't want to apply a granite color to our shading, because if you have a granite color just being transparent on top of the other, so if I were to make this black, you're not going to be able to see it. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to make it too light. So if we go with white or black, then those will not become granite colors, and we can just take our transparency tool then and change the transparency of that a little bit more or less. We can also, with these, maybe change these to look a little bit different. You can slide here, or there's also a slider up here, so either way you can adjust that. So maybe we'll go just a little bit darker there.